a city that everyone can afford.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Blake. Can I jump in for one moment? Mr. Mamdani, how will you convince Albany to pass that tax increase? Because from what we've heard from Governor Hochul, it's not really something that she's thinking about doing. How can you guarantee that will happen?
So I have experience in this actually because in my first year in the state legislature, I came to Albany where we had a governor then who didn't want to raise taxes on billionaires and corporations. That was then Governor Cuomo. And we actually overcame his objections, raised $4 billion in new annual revenue, and finally funded the very public schools that he had starved for so many years.
Thank you very much. We have to go with Mr. Blake now.
As a South Bronx native family of Jamaican immigrants, the way we actually address affordability is by ending credit scores and increasing income limits for housing applications and having universal child care that is happening not just after school but throughout the weekends. We pay for this by having a vacant apartment tax for those that are not living in New York City, by withholding taxes to DC that Trump tries to take against us, and making sure, as much as I love the Knicks, and I'm sorry they fired Tibbs, but they had to, you have to tax what's happening at Madison Square Garden. That is how you pay for it. That is how we have affordability.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Mr. Stringer.
I want to actually put forth a program that can get done for young families and for the people who built this city. And it's very simple. We need to use city-owned vacant land, 1,000 properties, and transform that land into affordable housing. That property should go to not-for-profits, to limited profit developers, not the luxury developers that fund Andrew Cuomo's campaign, but the developers that can actually build the Mitchell-Lama 2.0 that we need. We owe it to the people who built this city or are now fleeing the city because they can't afford to live here. And we need to welcome the next generation of New Yorkers who will be here if we give them hope and opportunity and affordability.
Thank you, Mr. Stringer.
Sally Gold.
Thank you. Now let's turn to President Trump, who looms large over the city, given his proposed funding cuts and his interest in hometown affairs. Democrats say they want a mayor who will stand up to him. Mr. Cuomo, you've branded the president a bully. Mr. Stringer, you called him a schmuck. And Mr. Lander, you put his name on a car and crushed it in a TV ad. The voters want to know how you will actually deal with the president if you are elected mayor. We have questions for each of you, and you'll all have 1 minute to answer. Mr. Cuomo, we'll start with you. You have experience collaborating and battling the president. Currently, his Justice Department is investigating you, following a criminal referral from Congress, alleging you lied during testimony about your involvement in a report that undercounted nursing home deaths during COVID. With that probe underway, how do you ensure voters that you would not be compromised in your dealings with the president if you were elected mayor?
Yeah, well, this is what Mr. Trump does, right? He started an investigation against me, against Kathy Hochul, against Senator Chuck Schumer, against Hillary Clinton. This is one of his tactics. I know how to deal with Donald Trump because I've dealt with him before. Many times, we've had many encounters, we fought on a daily basis through COVID, and I won many of those battles. I fought him on ice. This is not the first time he's brought ice to New York. He's done that before, and we fought him and we won. So he can be beaten, but he has to know that he's up against an adversary who can actually beat him. And I can tell you this, I am the last person on this stage that Mr. Trump wants to see as mayor. And that's why I should be the first choice for the people of the city to have as mayor.
Follow up on that, though, Democrats also raised some concerns about your testimony, so it wasn't only Republicans. But just putting partisan politics aside for a minute, how would you respond to voters about the congressional findings of your involvement in that report?
Yeah, first, putting partisan politics aside is virtually impossible nowadays. It's so toxic out there. The issue of COVID became a political football right away. It still is a political football between Democrats and Republicans, and even within the Democratic Party and within the Republican Party. And it's unfortunate. We should have been learning from the experience and finding out how we could be better prepared for the next time. But unfortunately, in this toxic environment, it's been nothing but politicized over and over again.
Okay, we have to move on, but I just want to add, the question was how would you respond to the allegations, but we have to move on.
Melissa.
Okay. Mr. Mamdani, you have said that Mr. Trump's Department of Justice can't be trusted, and that was after the news broke of Mr. Cuomo's alleged reported DOJ investigation. First, quickly, just a yes or no answer. Do you think that President Trump is unfairly targeting Mr. Cuomo?
No, I don't think that it's unfair, but I have no interest in believing that they're actually pursuing justice.
Okay, second part of my
And to
question.
be clear, it's not unfair because Andrew Cuomo did lie to Congress, but ultimately we know that the Trump Justice Department and the Trump administration as a whole is interested more in vindictiveness and persecution of political enemies than in anything to do with justice.
Okay, so moving forward, you are also a socialist, and because of that, why wouldn't President Trump target you, and by extension, target New Yorkers? You have 1 minute.
President Trump will target whomever is the next mayor of this city. President Trump even targeted his, in many ways, accomplice, Mayor Eric Adams, who has collaborated with the Trump administration at almost every opportunity. And still, in the midst of that collaboration, we saw that New Yorkers are being taken off the streets in their apartment building lobbies. We have $80 million being taken out of our city bank account. So I don't think there's any question that there's any mayor here that will be free from being attacked by Donald Trump. What's more important, however, is that we have a mayor who will actually fight back. And that's what I will do. I am Donald Trump's worst nightmare as a progressive Muslim immigrant who actually fights for the things that I believe in. And the difference between myself and Andrew Cuomo is that my campaign is not funded by the very billionaires who put Donald Trump in DC. I don't have to pick up the phone from Bill Ackman or Ken Langone. I have to pick up the phone for the more than 20,000 New Yorkers who contributed an average donation of about $80 to break fundraising records and put our campaign in second place.
Okay,
Mr.
Mr. Cuomo,
Cuomo.
Mr. Cuomo, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, please. Mr. Mondami is very good on Twitter and with videos, but he actually produces nothing for him to accuse me of lying. He also called President Obama a liar and said President Obama was evil. So take everything with a grain of salt. Donald Trump would go through Mr. Mondami like a hot knife through butter. He's been in government 27 minutes. He passed 3 bills. That's all he's done. He has no experience with Washington, no experience in New York City. He would be Trump's delight.
All right, brief response, Mr. Mondani, then we have to move on.
Look, it's true that I don't have experience with corrupt Trump billionaires who are funding my campaign. I don't have experience with party politics and insider consultants. I do have experience, however, with winning $450 million in debt relief for thousands of working class taxi drivers and actually delivering it to the working class people I
Thank you, Mr. Mondani. Mr. Lander? Mr. Lander, you've presented yourself as a tough-talking Trump resistor, but as mayor, you're expected to deliver, including aid for the city. So how can you do that if you're always at war with the president? You have 1 minute.
Look, when Donald Trump and Elon Musk stole that $80 million from New York City's bank account, I uncovered it, I rang the alarm bell, and I forced the mayor into court to get it back. You stand up and fight. You go into court when you are in the right. 1 week after he was elected, I became the first financial officer anywhere in the country to lay out where all that federal money comes into our budget with really concrete plans for how we put money in reserve so we'll be able to respond. But look, with all the corruption that's in Washington, we can't have corruption here in New York City as well. It's not only that Andrew Cuomo lied to Congress, which is perjury, he also lied to the grieving families whose loved ones he sent into those nursing homes to protect his $5 million book deal. That's corruption. That's what I crushed in that junkyard. So when I'm mayor, I will stand up to Donald Trump. I will make sure that we've got a budget that's ready. So when they come for our Medicaid, we've got an independent authority ready to keep providing reproductive health care, housing, and education. for
Mr.
all.
Cuomo, would you like to respond?
Yeah, please. Mr. Lander is a little loose with the facts. If he wants to talk about the facts on nursing homes, we'll talk about the facts. He's just parroting Trump's allegations,
I said it
which
long
are
before he
actually
did.
disproven by the federal government now.
Which ones are you talking about specifically?
And in terms of the rate of deaths in nursing homes, New York is number 38 out of 50. Number 38. Only 12 states had a lower rate of death, which is really something when you consider that we had it first and worse than anyone else. And when it comes to corruption, Mr. Lander knows corruption because his office approved $500,000 of contracts to organizations associated with his wife,
Okay.
which he said his
But
deputy.
I would really just like to clear
Even
one-
though the deputy reported to him.
I would just like to clear one thing up,
It's
Mr.
part of the
Cuomo.
corruption of
Okay.
the city.
It's a lie, and you know it, every word.
Yeah.
Lies
I hear
all the
you.
time.
But the question is whether or not it's political and whether or not your congressional testimony was truthful. Were you, now that you've had time to reflect, involved in producing that report that undercounted those nursing home deaths?
Oh, there was no doubt that my administration produced the report, and it did not undercount the deaths.
Okay, but
It
you're still
counted-
saying you were not involved in
No,
producing it.
It's very clear. That's the Trump line, the MAGA line, right? Because this was during the Trump reelection.
Okay,
The New York reports always counted the number of deaths where they occurred, in a nursing home or in a hospital.
okay.
Now that all the
Well,
dust is clear.
Okay, we have to move on though. We have to give other people a chance. We'll all have a lot more time on other subjects.
It's a yes or no, it's a very
All right, hold on, candidates. Get your mind if you're all talking. All right.
Will you acknowledge the deaths?
Okay,
I mean, it's a very black and white.
Okay.
Did you
Okay.
lie to Congress, or will you acknowledge the death?
All right.
15,000 people died, and he still won't answer your
I wanna
question.
answer.
All right, here's a chance to answer the question as Melissa presented it.
yes.
Mr. Coleman.
No, I told Congress the truth. No, we did not undercount any deaths. When they are all counted, we're number 38 out of 50, which I think shows that compared to what other states went through, we had it first and worst, and that only 12 states had a lower rate of death. We should really be thanking the women and men who worked in those
Mr.
nursing
President.
homes and did an
Okay,
extraordinary
Very quick
job.
yes or no follow-up, if I may. Just the question is, were you involved in the producing of that report? It's just a yes or no question.
I was very aware of the report. I spoke to it in press conferences.
No, before it was
Multiple
released,
times,
Mr.
and I
Cuomo, the
stand
question
by
is about the
report.
production of the
Okay.
report, the
And-
creation.
All right, I think-
Okay,
I
we're gonna move on, we're not getting an answer, we're
I
not gonna.
stand by the report.
It was just to whether or not you were.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Mr. Myrie, Mayor Adams and Governor Hochul have negotiated with Trump. Former Governor Cuomo has as well. As mayor, what experience would you bring to the table with President Trump?
Well, let me just say to the people watching at home who are afraid to send their children to school, to the families who are afraid to show up to court proceedings, seeing agents snatch people up doing the right thing, I want to speak directly to you in this moment because you're not hearing that communication. You're not hearing about a mayor that is going to stand up and have the backbone to stand up for our city. I'm the son of 2 undocumented immigrants who came here for opportunity. My parents could take me to school, they could take me to the hospital without fear of deportation because they knew the city would have their back. That's the kind of mayor that I'm gonna be. One that stands up when necessary. Of course, we're gonna work with the president when it's in the best interest of the city. But what he has demonstrated over these past 6 months is that he is not interested in helping the city. We have to grow our tax base so that we can be independent from the federal government, and that's why I have a plan to deliver 1 million homes over the next 10 years. It's why I want free after school for every kid in this city, and it's why I want to extend pre-K and 3K to 6 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Myrie. Rosarina?
Thank you, Melissa. Desde Ramos, vamos a hablar de Trump ahora. We talked about fighting President Trump, but you also said in a campaign questionnaire that you seek partnership with him. How do you envision working together with him? You have a minute.
You know, we have already seen a very clear blueprint about how to elegantly school President Trump. And we saw it in Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum and how she led on negotiating the tariff scandal with the president. And so I'm here to say that not only should my administration litigate to protect immigrants, to protect gender-affirming care, but we should be ready to withhold our federal taxes when Trump unlawfully takes away funding from the things that we need. We have to play chess, and we have to be smart, and our taxpayer dollars are our leverage.
Thank you, Ms. Ramos. Mr. Stringer, the next question goes to you. Fighting Trump has been a key element of your campaign. Is there anything that Trump wants that you will be willing to give him in exchange for something that the city needs? You have a minute.
Look, this is why it's so critical to elect a mayor with real experience. Experience negotiating, experience understanding what the stakes are here. Look, Donald Trump is coming for New York City. He's hell-bent on collapsing the social safety net. He wants to pick kids off the streets, but he also wants to destroy everything we've built in America, in this city. So I know how to fight him because I fought him in Trump 1. When he was coming after us, I managed to divest $4 billion from fossil fuel. I divested from private prisons. I divested from gun manufacturers. He didn't slow me down. He sped me up. But right now, we need a mayor who's going to put aside $1 billion in a very, very rainy day fund. We need a mayor who's going to insist that the banks and the next controller come to the table and strategize about how we have a short-term plan to get the city to the congressional elections. No one has more experience in city government and knows how to do that than
But
me.
Mrs. Stringer, the question is, if he wants something in exchange, will you give it to him?
I'm not quid pro quoing with Trump. What I'm going to do, and this is my strategy, is I'm going to organize the same thing that happened during the days when Ford said to New York, drop dead. We're going to go to the business community. I'm going to go to our congressional leadership, Schumer and Jeffries. I'm going to organize this city and the city government to wage a fight in Washington to protect the epicenter of the national economy,
Thank you very
which is
much.
New York City.
Thank you very much. We're gonna move on to Mr. Tilson now. And the question goes to you saying, you've been blasting Mr. Trump since 2016 when you call him El Diablo in Spanish, the devil, as mayor. How can you make a deal with him? We're talking about act with the deal, with the devil.
Look, I think I've been fighting Trump and Trumpism since long before then, since he came down that escalator 10 years ago this month. And but I do think we Democrats have to stop giving Trump gifts, like when we let ourselves be defined by our far left, by socialists with their defund the police nonsense and open borders, etc. One area that I do agree with Trump is that when a socialist like Zoran here tweets that the NYPD is, quote, wicked and calls to defund and dismantle the NYPD, that is madness, that is costing us elections. And it's why Trump has doubled his share of the New York City vote in the last 3 elections from 17% to 30%. We've got to move away from the far left and the socialism that's sinking our party and our city.
Brief response, Mr. Mamdani.
I want to be very clear that police have a critical role to play in creating public safety. And when I speak to those very officers on the beat, in the rank and file, I hear from them a frustration that where they join the force to tackle serious crimes, we are instead now asking them to play the roles of mental health professionals and social workers. And that is why we are putting forward a plan to create a Department of Community Safety that will tackle gun violence, homelessness, the mental health crisis.
All right, Mr. Mamdani, we might get to some of those issues. I just want a brief response.
It's critically important, and I think it's important in a moment when we have a candidate to my right who is absolutely mischaracterizing anything that we've put forward in this campaign.
You can check his Twitter feed. He has not deleted the tweet that calls the NYPD wicked and to defund and dismantle the NYPD. It's still up.
Thank you, Mr. Tilson.
All right, thank you. Mr. Blake,
Those tweets.
you often highlight your past roles in the Obama administration and in leadership of the National Democratic Party, which has since lost the White House and is struggling to regroup. How does that make you effective when it comes to negotiating with President Trump if you were mayor in 1 minute?
Well, as the only person on the stage who's been a part of a team that has actually defeated Donald Trump, and as a black man who understands that Trump goes after black folk, just ask the exonerated 5 or Barack Obama, and like them, we will win. I have the experience to make sure we address what's happening in New York City. First and foremost, anytime Trump and Elon try to take our funds, we will withhold taxes sending in DC, specifically working with companies that have contracts in New York City and say, you will not abide by unconstitutional behavior. Second, we will ban ICE at our schools and our places of worship. We will designate them as safe havens because there is no reason at all that ICE is going after our immigrants, in particular families like mine from Jamaica. Third, since I have White House experience under President Obama, State House experience locally, as well as what's happening as a reverend and a community leader, you need to understand that there's someone right now who can lead New York City. You have heard people now not be able to answer the question, but they're saying they can actually represent you. I am ready from day one because of what I have. From the White House to the State House to your house.
All right, thank you, Mr. Blake. Thank you, Mr. Blake. Ms. Adams, your most powerful campaign supporter is New York Attorney General Letitia James, an arch rival of President Trump. How would you ensure that you, and by extension New Yorkers, are not a casualty of their war? You have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. And you mentioned the Attorney General. She is the most notorious, the baddest attorney general that New York and the nation has ever seen, and yes, she does endorse me. You know, when the name Donald Trump comes up, the first thing that the advice that I get from the attorney general is that when Donald Trump comes your way and causes problems for New Yorkers, sue him. That is exactly what I am doing right now as we speak. We have an executive order that is in front of us that is illegal, that Mayor Eric Adams had his first deputy mayor sign. The mayor didn't even sign it, but the first deputy mayor signed it. And it would allow ICE to come onto Rikers Island, Donald Trump's ICE, to come onto Rikers Island, which has been illegal since the year 2014. I have a TRO, a temporary restraining order, that Judge Rosado feels that our case has merit. We have sued him, and New York will win. I will always be a mayor that will stand up for our immigrants. Donald Trump's ICE has no place on Rikers Island. Donald Trump's ICE has no place pulling our people that are taking their legal court dates now. No rights.
Thank you.
Not in my New York.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Sally Goldenberg.
Thank you, David. Let's turn to public safety. It's a top concern for many New Yorkers, especially underground on the subways, which so many New Yorkers rely on to get to work. We're seeing fewer robberies and overnight 2 cops on every train, but still many New Yorkers simply don't feel safe on the subways. We'd like to know what plan each of you have to change that. You have 30 seconds, and we're going to change the order and start with you, Ms. Ramos.
Thank you, Sally, for the question. You know, right now, we want to make sure that we are recruiting and retaining police officers. This is why I'm offering a workforce housing initiative to make sure that we help them be able to keep New York City their home. We want to attract them here. I want to increase their entry-level pay. I want to stop investing taxpayer dollars in RoboCops and toys and actually think about the officers themselves. But we have to assess deployment and upskill our EMS workers to respond to mental health emergencies.
Thank you, Ms. Ramos. Mr. Myrie.
Thank you. I take the train every single day. I took the 5 train to this debate. So I'm experiencing exactly what New Yorkers experience, and that is things feel different on our subways. People tell you that you shouldn't believe what you're experiencing, that the numbers are down and that you should feel more safe. But that's why people tune out of politics. Are the facts. Things feel different, so here's what I want to do. I want police and clinician teams 24/7, 150 of them throughout the city. I want to ensure that everyone feels safe no matter what neighborhood they're in.
Okay.
And I want to ensure that we do that on my first day.
We're at time, thank you. Mr. Cuomo, your plan to make the subway safer.
Yeah, part of it is we have to admit what we did wrong. The people on the stage, almost without exception, were all defund the police. Mondami dismantled the police, reduced the police by 3,000, $1 billion in overtime, and now they're calling for more police. We wouldn't need more police if we didn't defund them in the first place. In my first 30 days, I will take every homeless person off the trains and the subway stations and get them the help they need. We did it before, we can do it again.
Thank you, Mr. Cuomo.
We're going to fact check that he literally said defund the police himself when he was governor. Right. All right, man.
We're coming around to
This is the 3rd time he's literally lied about everyone on stage.
We're coming around.
Are you saying you didn't? Andrew? Are you saying you didn't say?
I never supported defund the police.
Are you saying you never said defund the police?
I never supported.
Can you just answer the question?
I used the words defund the police. I said I don't support defund the police.
You just said everyone else did that, but you would not acknowledge.
Mr. Cuomo, did you say?
I do not.
All right, hold on, gentlemen.
Did you say that it was a legitimate school of thought?
Let us frame the question here.
I think that Mr. Blake may be talking about something you said, which is that both are legitimate schools of thought. Defund or don't defund.
And
you gave it some legitimacy in public.
I disagree with defund.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
Okay,
And I'd still like to respond.
We're coming around.
we'll be coming around. We're coming around to everybody.
Mr. Tilson.
Yeah, I'm fully supportive of the increased police presence in the MTA. In fact, transit crime is down this year. It shouldn't be, I shouldn't have to say this, but the key to reducing crime is fully staffed police that are out there enforcing the laws. And we need to make crime illegal. And this is now happening down on the subways, where they are starting to enforce the lower level crimes, quality of life crimes, drinking, smoking, spreading out over the subway cars. And police are arresting more. And it turns out that 30% of the people they are arresting have criminal records of more than
I'm sorry, we do have to move on.
felonies.
We're at time. Mr. Mamdani.
In my Department of Community Safety, we are going to put together dedicated teams of mental health outreach workers who will be deployed to the top 100 subway stations with the highest levels of mental health crises and homelessness. We are actually going to address this in a manner that goes beyond the same ideas that we hear time and time again, recycled by the same politicians like Andrew Cuomo who brought us to this point. And if we care about the police force, then we have to actually listen to police officers. They are leaving this force, 200 of them each month. And when you ask them why, it's because of the forced overtime. And part of the reason that that is taking place is we're asking them to respond to every failure of the social safety.
Thank you, Mr. Blake.
The people who don't feel safe are young women, mothers, and grandmothers around Andrew Cuomo. That's the greatest threat to public safety in New York City. Now, specifically to your question, I have said very specifically, we need 1,000 mental health professionals on our subways and streets. And so therefore, you could have police then with body cameras on go do precision policing outside. The police will indicate they were not trained on addressing mental health. Let's utilize those persons who need the help immediately. If we take those steps, then we can also make it a point to help make sure everyone gets home
Mr.
alive.
Blake. We're going to move on to everybody, but I want to give you an opportunity to
Cuomo.
respond. Mr. Blake raised the issue of sexual harassment allegations in your administration.
Just, if people who are watching at home have to be incredibly frustrated. They defunded the police. They reduced the number of police. They're now saying we need more police. We should have reduced them in the first place. And we need mental health experts to address the homeless, mentally ill. And we do that by getting them off the train so we can assess them and get them to mental health.
Would you like to respond to Mr. Blake's
Every
comment
woman
about
watching
sexual
tonight should
harassment?
listen right now.
All right, listen.
That Andrew Cuomo would not respond when had the chance about sexual. Every woman watching tonight, he was just given a chance to actually address the clear claims that were stated and ignored it.
Okay, we do have to move on because we have other candidates on stage and we want to hear about their subway safety plans. Mr. Stringer, can we please hear about your subway safety plan?
Listen, gentlemen, listen,
We're moving on from this question. You had an opportunity to respond. Mr. Stringer, please tell us your subway safety plan.
Kids, it's grown up time, so just give me a second, okay? Let me straighten this out for you.
Thank you, Scott. We appreciate
So,
that.
no, you got it. So look, we're spending $1.3 billion in police overtime because we don't have enough police officers. We have the lowest police count in a generation, so we need to hire 3,000 more cops. But in order to get them, we have to go into our communities and get wonderful, diverse citizens to come into a department, but we also have to make it worthy of doing it. That's something I'm gonna do. But look, I will say this to you. The crisis that we have is twofold. It's not just about policing, it's about also helping the people who suffer from mental illness. And we have to align policing with the mental health initiative. Why Andrew Cuomo has the nerve to talk about defund when he signed the bail reform bill with loopholes that you didn't even read
We're
the
at time,
bill?
Mr. Stringer.
That is something that really causes crime problem.
We're at time, Mr. Stringer. Ms. Adams.
Thank you so much. To address this claim that everybody's called for defund, I have never called for defunding the police, and I never will. In the 2021 budget of the City Council, we were in a season of COVID, and many agencies had to be reallocated. Their funding had to be reallocated. Many agencies, not just the New York Police Department, but many. The City Council, our funding was even reduced during that season of COVID. But my public safety agenda calls for police to be taken out of social work and mental health, for our police to be paid what they are worth. We have always supported a budget that reinforces our police department.
Thank you, Ms.
and we
Adams.
always will
We're
do
at
that.
time. Mr. Lander, again, the question is about looking forward, your subway safety plan.
Yeah, I've got a dear friend whose middle school daughter, who takes the train to school, was pushed to the ground by a homeless person with serious mental illness. This is a big deal for all of our families, which is why I have a ready on day one, detailed, clear plan to end street homelessness for people with serious mental illness. We don't have to be a city where a couple thousand of our mentally ill neighbors cycle from subway to street to hospital to jail and back again. It's a plan called Housing First. It will work. I do have to go back though, because in the prior round, the former governor told a lie sourced from Twitter about my wife. And when I go home tonight, I better be able to make clear it's 100% false and he knows it.
Thank you, Mr.
Mario
Lander.
Cuomo publicly campaigned and told
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lander. We're going to move on. Melissa has another set of questions about public safety.
Please don't talk. Please don't talk. We're going to try to get as much in as we can.
if you won't lie about my wife, I'll be good the rest of the time.
Thank you.
Okay, we are all familiar with what it's like to try to buy toothpaste or beauty products at the local drugstore and having to wait for it to be unlocked. Shoplifting is a sad fact of life in the city right now, and many in law enforcement blame bail reform, since most shoplifters can no longer be held in jail. So, they get arrested, they most often receive a ticket to appear in court, and they're usually released to steal again. That's how law enforcement describes it again and again. So we have a few specific questions, and you're going to have 30 seconds to answer. Mr. Cuomo, we will start with you. Because you signed the bail reform legislation, Governor Hochul has made some changes since you did that. Do you think bail reform is working, and how would you stop shoplifting and other low-level repeat crimes? You have 30 seconds.
Yes, just to go back, if Mr. Lander says his office didn't approve 500,000 contracts, that his deputy approved affiliated with his wife's organization.
Every word a
the
lie.
deputy reports to him.
Every word a lie,
Yeah,
and he
then,
knows.
well, then it's easy enough to check.
Mr. Cuomo, you're using your time, just so you know, you're gonna have 30 seconds.
Yeah. On bail reform, we all talk about how terrible Rikers Island is, and it is. It's a disgrace that it is still being operated
Okay.
by the city.
Your time is up, Mr. Cuomo, I'm sorry.
Per person, and
Time is up, I'm sorry, I am. Mr. Myrie, you voted for bail reform as well. How would you stop shoplifters if you were the mayor and other low-level crimes that are taking a toll on our city?
Anyone that breaks the law needs to be held accountable, and we made changes to our criminal justice laws because things needed to change. And here's how I know. I was robbed with my mom in an elevator in the building that I grew up in when I was very young. Her worldview is informed by that experience. We have to ensure that every New Yorker feels safe in every neighborhood wherever they are, and that is what I'm going to do as mayor. I'm going to return our police headcount to what it was in 2018, and I'm going to ensure that all New Yorkers feel safe wherever they are.
Time, thank you, Rosarina.
Yeah, Ms. Ramos, the same question to you. You voted for bail reform. How would you stop shoplifters and other low-level crime to take a toll in the city?
Well, we have a little more than 1,000 recidivists in the city of New York, and I've been hard at work in the Senate already, making sure that we're looking at treatment courts in cases of kleptomania, but clearly there are organized rings that need to be taken down by the NYPD. So I'm here to say that there's accountability to be had, but we also have to make sure that there is a balance with the job opportunities that should open up if we address all of the crises that we are facing.
But let's remember that you voted for the bail reform. Thank you. Mr. Mandan, you're opposed to rollbacks to bail reform, and you do not want to hire more cops above the current authorized levels. How would you stop shoplifters and these repeat offenders? What's your approach?
I want to sustain the headcount that we have in the police department. And I want to listen to police officers who are leaving in droves from the department because they're being asked to do the work of mental health professionals and social workers. Right now, police officers pick up hundreds of phone calls a day that are mental health crises, hundreds of thousands a year. That's not the work that they signed up to do. And when it comes to shoplifting and retail theft, the key here is to listen to workers themselves. They have spoken time and time again about the need for increased staffing in our Walgreens and our Duane Reades. And when it comes to organized crime,
Thank you very much.
we have to ensure the police actually hold them accountable.
Thank you, Mr. Mandani. Mr. Blake, do you see a need for change to the bail reform, and how would you end the retail theft as mayor?
Absolutely. So I proudly supported it when I was in the assembly because Khalif Browder was my constituent. When we talked about raise the age and bail reform and speedy trial, we had to do that. But we need to make it different and stronger now. And to your question, that means we have to hold repeat offenders more accountable, be much more attentive to that degree. But the broader dynamic, if we help New Yorkers make and keep more money in their pocket in the first place, then we wouldn't have people speaking about shoplifting. That's why we need to have local median income. That's why we have to have guaranteed income. That's why we have to help people on the front end so we're not talking about them being arrested on the back end.
Thank you so much, Mr. Blake. Sally.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer, we're going to go to you with the same question. Do you see a need for any further changes to the state's bail laws, and how would you tackle retail theft as mayor?
Look, I've seen retail theft in my own neighborhood, walking into a Duane Reade with my kids and just seeing the shelves empty and then having to push a button, wait 10 minutes for a young staffer whose job is not to be my personal shopper. This is wrong. And that's why we need to put cops on the beat, working with the small businesses to root out the people who are constantly coming back to do this. But we also have to make sure that the people who are doing the stealing also have opportunities to get them the housing and the services that they need. See, we have to walk and chew gum at the same time when it comes to criminal justice.
I just want, since you used your time, just a yes or no question. Do you see a need for further changes to the state's bail laws? Just yes or no?
Look, I think right now it's been changed a couple of times.
Okay.
When
Not
Cuomo,
yes or no.
let me just say, when Cuomo signed it, he didn't do the work of a mayoral
No.
governor. The
Okay,
mayor
it's
and the
not a
governor
yes
are
or no.
supposed
It's
to
just
go
a yes
through
or no question.
legislation
We're gonna
and
move on.
find the
Ms. Adams.
loopholes, and he didn't do that, and that's too
Okay,
bad.
we're moving on to Ms. Adams. Ms. Adams, same question to you. Do you see any need for changes to the state's bail laws? And how do you plan to tackle retail theft as mayor?
Well, the state just made some adjustments and some tweaks, so let's see how that goes. We need to take a look at the ringleaders at the higher levels of the folks that are carrying and actually doing the stealing. Low-level criminals are wasting away on Rikers Island. Some have committed suicide under this current administration. So what we need to do as far as public safety is concerned, I will fill the over 2,000 vacancies within the NYPD in my first 8 months as mayor. This is what we need to look at. Others are looking at bringing in thousands and thousands of police officers. We have vacancies to fill. This will work. This is what our NYPD needs, better management.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lander, do you see a need for changes to bail reform, and what would you do as mayor about this retail theft?
I've got a detailed plan to combat retail theft, so the toothpaste is not always behind lock and key. You can look it up on my website. To develop it, I took lessons from NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, who I want to keep as commissioner because crime's coming down and accountability is going up. It involves giving a panic button, essentially, to retail stores so they don't have to call 911. They can report quickly, investigations can be thorough. And I've actually taken the idea from the conservative Manhattan Institute that drug treatment courts need to be central in our response.
Thank you.
We just came two of the bills, the Retail Worker Safety Act with panic buttons and my mental health court expansion.
Range choice voting.
Quick response? Okay.
Well, Ms. May?
All right, thank you. Sally, you had a quick question.
Yeah, well, I guess we also for Mr. Tilson.
Yes. Mr. Tilson, I'm gonna let you respond, but just on that,
Yeah, I guess because Mr. Lander brought her up, just a quick show of hands, who else would keep Jessica Tisch as police commissioner? Okay, thank you.
I haven't decided yet.
Okay, all right. Mr. Tilson, you said you would cut crime by 50%. Do you want changes to bail reform? What can you do to tackle this low-level crime?
Yeah, well, I do very much believe we need to make substantial changes to bail reform and discovery reform, both of which went too far. Like what I said earlier, we basically decriminalized all low-level crime. Shocker, it went way up. So we need to have more police officers enforcing the law, and we need to change the legislation such that prosecutors can actually punish repeat offenders. I just talked to a cop right here in Midtown North last week who told me they're down from 300 cops to 120, and they have to fill out so much paperwork when they make an arrest that the criminals back out onto the street before they're finished with the paper.
All right, Mr. Tilson, thank you. Rosario.
Thank you, David. Now we're going to talk about e-bikes. Bicycle deaths in the city have reached record heights in the recent years, with injuries also surging, many involving, of course, e-bikes. Just the past hour, Mayor Adams announced a plan to impose a 15-mile-per-hour speed limit on e-bikes. Do you believe this is the right way to improve safety? And what else would you do, Ms. Adams? You have 30 seconds to answer.
Yeah, a lot of those, the e-bike riders are people that deliver food to our homes, and they have families as well. I do believe that there needs to be a closer look, which we are doing in the city council as far as regulation is concerned, but we have to be careful.
But this regulation with 50 miles per hour, is this the right approach to regulate it?
Well, as the mayor normally does, he does not collaborate with the city council, which had we